All right, welcome back in Live Now. I'm Austin Westfall. New York Attorney General Letitia James was indicted Thursday on mortgage fraud charges. We know that she was charged with bank fraud and making false statements to a financial institution in connection with a home purchase in 2020. It happened in Virginia. Standing by to discuss this is former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani. Neama, as always, it's good to see you. Catch us up on this. The Trump administration, they had pushed out another prosecutor who had resisted filing charges against James, correct? What's happened between then and now?
Eric Siebert, the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, was essentially pushed out, like you said, Austin, resigned because he refused to file not just this case against Letitia James, but of course, the indictment against James Comey. And the Trump administration appointed Lindsay Halligan, one of the president's former lawyers, an insurance lawyer with no prosecution experience whatsoever. So she went into that grand jury a couple weeks ago, and in her first prosecution, got an indictment against Comey. And today, that second shoe dropped. I think we were all expecting this bank fraud prosecution of Letitia James, and it's serious. When you talk about bank fraud, you're looking at a potential 30-year sentence in federal prison. I'm not saying she's going to get anywhere near that, but this is no joke when the attorney general of one of the biggest states in the country is charged with a federal felony.
A live look at the New York City skyline, 917 in the Big Apple. The Associated Press says that the indictment pertains to James's purchase of a house in Norfolk, Virginia, again in 2020. During that sale, she signed a standard document called a second home rider, in which she agreed to various rules, including a requirement that she would keep the property primarily for her personal use and enjoyment for at least 1 year, unless the lender agreed otherwise in writing. The AP says rather than using the home as a second residence, the indictment alleges that James rented it out to a family of 3. According to the indictment, the misrepresentation allowed James to obtain favorable loan terms not available for investment properties typically. The AP saying such. We've been reporting on this for a good amount of the evening here, Neama. Given James's position as the AG in New York, how unusual is it for someone in her role to face an indictment? What kind of precedent does this set also?
Austin, it's highly unusual, and it seems like I come on Live Now seemingly every day and say we're dealing with something unprecedented, but it really is. And like you said, anyone who's applied for a mortgage or has a mortgage knows that if it's your primary home, you're going to have more favorable terms, typically a lower interest rate. And if it's a rental, you're going to have to pay more. So this statement is important. People might think it's a victimless crime, but it's not necessarily that. So if you're looking at bank fraud, you're looking at 5 elements here. You're looking at scheme to defraud. You're looking at a knowingly false statement to a bank. So you got those 3. But the statement has to be intended to defraud, and it has to be material. It has to be important. I could see the defense trying to attack this case on the intent and the materiality, but otherwise, it seems like there's plenty of evidence that this statement was false. If she never lived there, she rented it out. It seems like it was a rental. This is going to be tough legally for the attorney general. Politically, she might be okay, might not have any problems, but she's going to have to face these charges in federal court in Virginia. It's going to be a serious issue for the attorney general.
Yeah, what comes next in the legal process? Do we have any clarity on that? Is she going to have to make a court appearance shortly?
She will, just like Comey had to appear in court and plead not guilty at an arraignment. Expect the attorney general to have to do the same. It'll probably be sometime next week. I don't think she's going to be arrested. She'll be allowed to surrender like Comey was. Obviously, different cases, but there are some parallels. Expect to see a selective or vindictive prosecution argument. Those arguments rarely are successful. The president himself raised them in his criminal cases. So did Hunter Biden. They were rejected. But the argument is really as follows. One, that James is being prosecuted against her First Amendment rights because she has spoken out against the president. So it's a free speech violation. Or that it's a vindictive prosecution. She's being prosecuted only because she sued the president civilly. So expect those arguments in the coming weeks and months by Letitia James's team. I also expect them to challenge Halligan's appointment itself. And, you know, even if there was a violation, that violation can be cured by having another assistant U.S. attorney step in. I'm sure there's probably one career prosecutor in that office that's willing to take on the case if there is a violation. So that type of argument, even though it's made, it's probably not going to derail the case entirely. It may just be a delay tactic.
Could this impact any cases that her office is handling?
Potentially, yes. We know that some very high profile and experienced prosecutors have left. What I would say is this: said it's a second shoe. I wouldn't be surprised, Austin, if we see two more indictments. And that's California Senator Adam Schiff for similar mortgage fraud allegations, or at least we'll see a complaint or an indictment. Now, President Biden did pardon Schiff on his way out, but that related to the January 6th committee and the impeachment proceedings. I'm not sure that pardon would cover any bank fraud or mortgage fraud. And of John Bolton, and we know that obviously his home was raided and classified documents investigation. But the four people that the president identified that the Department of Justice should go after, Comey and James, have now been charged. And I think those other two, in a matter of days or weeks, I would expect charges as well. The president has been pretty clear about what he wants. And at least this U.S. attorney in Eastern Virginia is willing to go along with the president's requests.
What's important to follow next? What are you looking to next week? You say she could make a court appearance within the next week or so. Other than that, what are you watching for?
I think that court appearance, she's going to plead not guilty, and then expect those motions to be teed up by the defense, the vindictive selective prosecution, the motion challenging the appointment, anything else they can do to go after this indictment. On the merits, I think really the only basis to do so would be to say that this was an innocent mistake. It wasn't material to the loan itself. It's not like she was misstating her income or her assets. I think the materiality is going to be a little bit harder because it does affect that interest rate and the amount that she might have had to put down and otherwise collateralize the loan. So we'll see the indictment being attacked, but I don't think those motions will be successful. We may have two very high profile jury trials in Northern Virginia, and at least as far as Comey and James are concerned, tends to be predominantly Democrat there. So that jury pool may be favorable for both defendants in what are likely two very politicized prosecutions.
Former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani joining us tonight. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Austin. Talk soon.
Talk soon. All right, the time approaching 9:30 in the nation's capital. Let's hit a commercial break. Back in a moment.